Husband refused to cut ties with toxic friends who invaded our lives and sanity, but their antics with boats and businesses finally sank them. My husband strongly doesn't want to let anyone go out of his life regardless of how toxic they may or may not be, so I'm looking to use this as a way to either convince him or realize how wrong I am. It's a long post because I wanted to give an extremely clear picture. TLDR, we have couple BFFs that have essentially used us. Examples below. Should we just go no contact at this point? So for some backstory, me and my husband have had these friends for probably about 7 to 8 years. When we first became friends, we used to hang out all the time. None of us had kids, so it was of course easy to do so. And then when we got married, they were the best man and maid of honor at our wedding. They seemed to be super supportive, but they pretty much spent the entire time telling us how horrible their wedding was. With that being said, they put a tremendous amount of effort into our wedding. I mean, they literally handmade centerpieces and signs from what they got for free. It did get a little weird though, and I did have some of the bridesmaids coming up to me telling me that they didn't really care for mainly the maid of honor's attitude, but it wasn't anything severe, so we brushed it off. The second the wedding was over, everything changed though. They got pregnant, and then they started acting really weird towards us. I have previously had 5 miscarriages by this point. Me and my husband were together for 5 years before we even got engaged and had a 2.5-year engagement. We met when I was 21, so we didn't have any rush to jump into anything with marriage, and the pregnancies were accidental. The miscarriages were also very early and we were still understandably sad about it, but didn't necessarily dwell on it. When they announced the pregnancy, they immediately were talking about how they weren't sure if they should even tell us because of our past history, and they made a whole big deal about how miserable we must be due to the miscarriages, which seemed very weird to me. Like I can still be ecstatic for somebody else, even if I haven't been able to experience that myself. But again, I brushed it off because I was trying to play it off as more of like they were trying to be sensitive vibe. So we started doing anything and everything we could to make their lives easier. We wanted to be there for them in a similar way that they were there for us for the wedding. They were our best friends and we were wholeheartedly excited for them. We renovated their house with them. And I'm talking major renovations, not mild stuff. Like we built huge items, helped with redoing the master shower, painting and building the nursery, and redid the flooring throughout 80% of the house. Both of the husbands are very handy and working mechanic and construction type jobs. We planned 2 different baby showers for them. One was for the women and one was for the guys because that's how they wanted to do it. We bought everything and easily spent over $1,000 on the showers alone. We also bought them cute-ass gifts that say things like I'm gonna be a mom or I'm gonna be a dad during the pregnancy, and then we bought them a ton of stuff off their registry and continued to buy things for them that they needed when she was on maternity leave and they couldn't really afford it. We loaned them money to help cover bills that they were behind in. They paid us back like 80% of the time and we never made a big deal about it when they just forgot. We offered to babysit, but she never took us up on it. I was constantly reminding her that I can come over, help clean, fold laundry, do whatever she needed to reduce her stress levels as well. At this point, it was obvious that she was going through some major postpartum depression, and I brought it up to her husband, who basically brushed it off, saying that was my job to fix. He told me I should just show up at their house unannounced and forced her to sit down, but she's not the kind of person that's okay with stuff like that. So that was a big reason why I was always reminding her that I could help out. I didn't want to disrespect that boundary. But then her husband kept pushing, so one day I went over there and did exactly what he asked me to do, and that's when things got even weirder between us. He originally told us he wasn't home, and then when we got there, he was there and it was obvious that they were fighting and they just didn't want us there. So we stayed maybe like 10 minutes because we didn't really know what to do, and then when it was obvious that the vibe was not changing, we left and never did that again. He tried to get me to do it a few more times and I straight out refused, telling him that it's not appropriate. At this point, they started to push away from us more and more and I didn't really understand why. But then they announced that they were leaving and moving cross country. They started telling us how we were bad friends because we didn't want to hang out with them. But they were literally going to a park down the street from our house all the time and never telling us so we could stop by. We were always making plans with them and cooking them dinner whenever they would actually attend, but they would never invite us anywhere and half the time wouldn't even respond when we tried to make plans with them. They only hung out with people who had kids, and they literally just didn't want anything to do with us. So we started to back away from them. Well, now it's 2 years later and they still haven't moved cross country. They keep saying they're going to. They will list their house for sale and then take it off after a few months, and every time they list their house for sale they start texting us telling us how we're bad friends and we only want to hang out with them when they're moving. In December, I found out I was pregnant. We are ecstatic, of course. We actually just hung out with them for the first time in a year the week before I found out I was pregnant, and it kind of seemed like things were getting back to normal. So I got very excited and texted them a picture of the ultrasound. I figured them now knowing all the shit that we went through to get pregnant that they would be excited for us. I was wrong. I was told that I need to quit my job because I won't be a good mother and I won't be able to handle the stress if I continue to work. There is no way me and my husband can afford our home without both of our jobs to have a semi-comfortable life. We found a daycare that we absolutely love, and we both agree that it will help with socialization for our child and allow us to remain fully focused while we're at work because we know our baby is in good hands. I also work from home, so if anything were to happen, we can easily keep the kid at home if needed. So I instructed them that I will not be taking that advice. I told her we had a very strong village. We live close to both sets of grandparents, all of our siblings, and one of my aunts who's very involved. We have so many people just in our immediate family that are so excited and ready to help. And my husband is very helpful. Like since I've become pregnant, he's doing 90% of the chores, and anything I do is only because I want to do it. He will happily take it off my plate, but I can't sit still to save my life. After explaining this, it seemed like she immediately started punishing us. They listed their house for sale again, telling us how they won't be able to help with anything or attend any of our baby stuff. We did a gender reveal and we're doing a baby shower. I was disappointed, and I did tell her that is a little upsetting just because we were such a big part of their pregnancy. It feels weird not having them even just attend as a guest. She immediately berated me, telling me how she has no help here and no one has ever wanted to do anything for her since she's been pregnant and she just needs to get away. This really upset me because we literally did anything and everything for them. The only thing we never did was babysit their kid because they wouldn't let us. It was just so surprising that after everything that we've done that I've already listed above, that it's still considered as them not having any help at all. So I decided to just remove them from the list because it seemed like they were going to be gone beforehand anyways. The husband was telling my husband that they were days away from having multiple offers, and this was 2 months before our gender reveal. So since she already told us she wasn't going to come, we just took them off the list. But then they're still here 2 weeks before the gender reveal, and they see that other people got invitations for it, and now they're upset that they didn't get them. So I explained to her that I didn't want them to feel pressured to come, and it didn't seem like they were very much interested in keeping a relationship with us, so we decided to not make things weirder. But I also sent her the invitation electronically and told her that she's more than welcome to come. She continued to just berate me and be passive-aggressive about the situation, acting as if we did something horrendous to them. So I assumed at this point that they weren't going to attend. Well, then her husband starts texting mine telling him how he's a horrible friend and how their friendship has always been one-sided and we never do anything for them. He went on to say that we only reach out to them when we want something and we refuse to ever help them. And of course they're going to attend, and we're horrible people for ever assuming that they wouldn't. He started to say that he never told my husband that they even had offers on their house, to which my husband literally sent him screenshots of the text. And he just kept saying that my husband misunderstood. At this point, I'm livid because why is this turning into such a stressful thing? Either come or don't. Either support us or don't, but you can't be assholes and then expect us to roll out a red carpet for you. They come to the gender reveal, and every single person that was there came to us and asked if they were okay because of how rude they were being. They rolled their eyes whenever somebody talked to them. They refused to control their kid when he kept blocking people from trying to set up things. And it was obvious that they were fighting with each other too because they kept sniping. When they went to leave, the wife never said anything to me and just stood there awkwardly while her husband was saying goodbye to us. And he seemed to be more on the friendly side, but she just literally kept walking towards the door and trying to get him to leave. Now it's been a month and we haven't heard a single thing from them. We just went ahead and invited them to the baby shower to avoid the drama, and today I get a text saying that they guess they'll attend, but it's inconvenient timing. I reminded them that they are under no obligation to attend, but they do need to RSVP and give enough notice so our host, who is planning food and favors, etc., can make sure that they have them on the list. I'm seriously considering going no contact at this point and just cutting them out. But I just feel like there's something I'm missing. I've had a few people that have read the text messages tell me that it seems like she's jealous, but I don't understand why. I don't know if maybe I did something crazy that makes me the asshole here, or maybe I'm just being ridiculous and holding on to something that very clearly has ended. It seems like every time I turn around they're trying to find a way to make my pregnancy stressful and fight with us. Also, side note, I have helped support every business she had, 2 to 3 at this point, by buying at least $100 worth of her items and constantly telling people about her business. But I started a craft business and she has never bought or supported mine. She acknowledges that it exists, but even when she has friends that ask for items that I make, she doesn't ever recommend me. They usually end up finding me on their own and then saying, "She never told me you did this, I would have totally bought this from you." Part of me feels like as I'm writing all of this out that it seems painfully obvious, but maybe I'm just blind to another side of it as well. So would I be the asshole at this point if I just completely go no contact with them? Okay, Reddit. It's time for an update, and holy hell, I did not expect to have as much to say as I now do. Buckle up, because the last 6 weeks have fully convinced me that if we don't go no contact with these people, my sanity and my marriage might not survive having a kid. So, after my last post, I decided to take a big step back and really pay attention to how I was feeling, looking for where I might be missing something. I even started journaling every interaction. That experiment was alarming. I realized that every time I engaged with them, no matter how brief or superficial, I felt like a wrung-out dish rag afterwards. But it's not even just me. I noticed my husband, who is usually a golden retriever in human form, started leaving his phone in weird places or forgetting to respond to texts, something he's never done before. He kept saying, "I just don't know what to say to him anymore," which, from the man who would probably comfort a houseplant if it looked sad. That's saying something. But obviously, going no contact is a big deal, and despite all of Reddit giving me the run, don't walk advice, my husband had that impossible time letting go. We decided to try a soft launch of boundaries and, shockingly, things escalated immediately. First, they did show up to the baby shower, but they were late by almost 2 hours. And it's totally fine if you're late because your kid throws a tantrum or because a diaper blowout attacks you before you're even out the door. That's just life. But no, they were late because they decided to use the time to look at houses in our area. Keep in mind the market here is insane, and they've made it clear for months they're committed to moving several states away. They swanned in, acted like they were celebrities who'd graced us with their presence, and made a handful of rude comments about the decor, which, by the way, our mutual friend made and put hours into. Maid of honor, let's just call her Jess, immediately started some loud monologue about how my showers were always more put together than this and made sure every guest heard her. At one point, I found her talking to my cousin, loudly, about how with a career like that, how will Op ever have time for a baby anyway? Then, get this, she literally dragged one of my friends into a corner and pitched her new business MLM to her. I wish I was joking. But the real kicker, the thing that finally had me seeing the full Technicolor red flag, happened later that afternoon. One of the games at the shower was diaper Jenga. My friend assembled it, wrote silly messages on the diapers, the whole 9 yards. Jess picks one at random, then announces to the group, well, you certainly didn't need these for long, and some of us never had anyone to help, not even for one night. Then she just stared at me, while everyone sort of nervously laughed. I just had no words, absolutely speechless. I told my husband later, and even he, the master of minimizing conflict, just went quiet and sort of whispered, that was just mean. So after the shower, I decided to initiate what I can only call Operation Boundaries. I started with the little things, stopped liking/commenting on her endless business reels, didn't respond to her stories, didn't make any effort to initiate plans. They immediately noticed, obviously. She started texting me every few days, hey, you okay? Haven't heard from you. Her husband messaged mine, bro, is everything good? You seem distant, not sure you value this friendship. When we did reply, we kept it brief and polite. This sent them spiraling into boundary pushing overdrive. Suddenly, Jess was messaging me about catching up over coffee no kids because she could really use some adult time. When I said I was uncomfortable sitting inside a coffee shop for hours at 7 months pregnant, she sent me a list of her fave doctors who supposedly say it's totally fine to do anything as long as you're not a wimp about it. Then her husband texts mine a picture of a boat and says, can you help me fix this engine before we go? You're the only one I trust. My husband kindly declined, saying his weekends were full with baby prep. Cue the next meltdown. I guess we know who really has your priorities. Then, the wildest drama yet, they called us at 10 o'clock at night. I was exhausted and dead asleep, because they'd locked themselves out of their house, and apparently there wasn't a single locksmith or neighbor in the universe who could possibly help but us. We live 30 minutes away and both their own parents are 10 minutes away. My husband tried to gently explain no, but Jess literally texted me, so I guess now we're not even worth that much to you. I woke up the next morning to a series of all caps texts about how true friends make sacrifices. The energy this took? I wanted to throw my phone in the toilet. But here's the thing, we did not give in, not once. We didn't apologize, didn't bend, didn't rush. We just let the boundary be a boundary. And then? Radio silence for 3 whole weeks. It was like our house had been cleansed by the world's most powerful sage. My pregnancy heartburn even eased up, which my OB swears is coincidence, but I don't buy it. Then, last week, 3 things happened, in rapid succession, that forced the final confrontation. First, my husband ran into Jess's husband at a local hardware store. Husband was super cold, avoided eye contact, then said loudly as he walked away, hope you enjoyed your little shower, must be nice to actually have people who give a damn. My husband came home, shaking, and said, I just can't do this anymore. Second, we learned from a mutual friend that Jess has been telling anyone who'll listen that we abandoned her when she was at her lowest and used her for gifts and parties but had no intention of keeping her in our life now that we have a baby. She literally told people I copied her nursery ideas and couldn't even be original in my own shower themes. It's 5th grade stuff, but it stung. Third, and most ridiculous of all, Jess had the sheer audacity to text me out of nowhere asking if she could have my OB's direct number because, I'm just not sure you're getting the right advice and want to ask her some questions for you. I almost spit my lunch out laughing. When I politely, okay, tersely, declined, she followed up with, if you'd take advice from a real friend, maybe your journey wouldn't have taken so long. I'm not exaggerating, my hands shook reading that text, so that was it. I sat down, wrote out a message, respectful, not dramatic, and told her, it's clear our friendship is no longer healthy for either of us, and I need to step away. Wishing you all the best. She responded with a multi-paragraph essay about how hurtful I was, how I was throwing her away like trash and no wonder you had trouble building your family, you're not capable of commitment. My husband sent her husband a similar note, we muted them everywhere, took them off all our announcement lists, blocked numbers for a bit to avoid knee-jerk replies. Here's the crazy part, it's been a week since all this, and I feel 10 pounds lighter. I realize now it wasn't just the endless drama, but the constant self-doubt, feeling like I was the one ruining things or letting someone down. Since then, my family has gone into full-on village mode. I have group chats alive with baby memes, actual friends dropping by to leave freezer, meals, and my mom calling me to practice Nana babysitting drills. My husband's been able to laugh again at dumb sitcoms. It feels normal. And, because the universe can never leave good enough alone, today, Jess's latest business followed me on Instagram. The bio? Helping moms who've been abandoned build true community. Her first product, a wooden sign that reads, "Real friends stand by you, not above you." I screenshotted it, not to send to anyone, I don't need to, but just to remind myself that some endings are necessary, and that sometimes, the universe gives you a sign, literally and figuratively. Time for another update, and somehow, against all odds, things have gotten even wilder. I truly thought after the final goodbye texts and blocking them everywhere, we had finally hit a wall, Dramaberg demolished, path to peace cleared. How naively optimistic of me, because if this saga has taught me anything, it's that toxic people are like glitter, just when you think you've cleaned up the last fleck, you find a whole clump under your couch cushion. It started quietly at first. The first couple weeks were blissfully, almost suspiciously, calm. I could practically hear the tension draining out of our house. My husband was humming to himself while assembling the crib, I could actually enjoy scrolling social media again, and we were finally spending uninterrupted evenings daydreaming about our new baby. Not a peep from Jess or company, no cryptic texts, no passive-aggressive memes, no mysterious missed calls. It felt, honestly, a little too good to be true. Then, around 4 weeks after we blocked them, my husband gets an email on his work account. Yep, his work email, which neither of us had ever shared with them, subject line, important closure. Of course, he doesn't open it right away, but curiosity eventually wins. It's from Jess's husband, ranting for 7 fat paragraphs about loyalty and how true men don't run away from hard conversations, sprinkled with a lot of "you're choosing your wife over your real family" and culminating in one last invitation, I'm not kidding, to help him move his damn boat to storage. That was the subject's important closure. We both just sat there howling with laughter. Husband blocked the email sender. This, apparently, triggered the next storm. Suddenly, mutual friends began reaching out on behalf of Jess and her husband, some delicately asking if there's been a misunderstanding. Turns out, the toxic duo had embarked on a weirdly dedicated PR offensive. They started showing up at events they'd previously ignored, one friend's barbecue, another's kid's birthday party, spinning a tale about us dropping them for Instagram clout and having no respect for years of friendship. Jess even posted a vague Instagram story about learning who your real family is, sometimes blood, sometimes lifelong besties who turn out to be snakes, complete with a photo of a bracelet she'd made for me back in 2018. At first, we ignored it and just focused on nesting/prep. My health, and our baby, had to come first. But then one day, my husband comes storming inside holding a letter. In a hand-addressed envelope, with Jess's unmistakable bubble writing, she mailed us a 4-page friendship eulogy, complete with a printed-out poem about betrayal. She included a Polaroid from our wedding, which she had drawn devil horns on with a silver Sharpie, on herself, for reasons I still can't parse. The closing paragraph accused us of using her as a fertility totem and stealing her motherhood glow. Genuinely, it was so unhinged I kind of had to admire the creativity. My husband wanted to burn it, but I tucked it away as a cautionary tale for our future child. Kid, this is why we have rules about who gets our address. I wish I could say that was the end, but they leveled up the campaign. I discovered, through a mutual acquaintance in our local parents group, that Jess was using one of my own old craft project tutorials, lifted entirely from my blog, down to the punctuation, as her latest signature product for her new MLM side hustle. She posted photos on her business account with a caption about originality and supporting women who really want to hustle, and then, in the comments, she and her friends tangled with a couple kind souls who tagged me, suggesting I deserved credit. Jess replied, "Some people only want recognition when it's convenient. That's not what community is about." It was weirdly poetic. I posted nothing. I said nothing. But the universe wasn't done. Because, reader, Jess showed up at my parents' house. I wish I was exaggerating. We were there for a calm Sunday lunch, my feet up on the ottoman, talking about freezer meal plans. There was a knock at the door. My dad answered, and then poked his head in the living room with that familiar something's weird look. Standing on the porch, Jess, holding what looked like a gift bag and a spiral notebook. I froze. My mom said, "Let me handle this. I've been waiting my whole life for a suburban standoff." She stepped outside and shut the door. What happened next, I'll never know in full, but my mom came back in 10 minutes later looking both deeply satisfied and ever so slightly pitying. She handed me the gift bag, which contained a onesie from Jess's original baby shower that literally had her kid's name on it, and said, "You never have to worry about her showing up again." Later, my dad told us with a wink that your mother can professionally deflate the hopes of an entire realtor open house. We agreed this was a story to be saved until the baby's old enough to understand why Nana has zero patience for adult tantrums. After Porchgate, we finally sent out a quiet message to a handful of mutual friends, just "We've chosen some distance for our family, please don't involve us in any group chats or sideshows, and we wish them well." Most friends responded with understanding. Some, it turns out, were already quietly fading Jess and her husband out for similar reasons. One friend shared that Jess had also cornered her at a playground a week earlier, looking for intel on us and, when rebuffed, muttering about how some women can't handle another mother's power. I wish I could say she was joking, but at this point I don't think that phrase is even in her vocabulary. Now, the absolute wildest twist, the one that had me howling so hard I almost induced early labor. Jess used her mom business Instagram to run a public contest for best story of toxic fake friends. Winner gets a handmade sign, and my story, she changed the names, but not the details, was the example post. Several acquaintances recognized it instantly and DM'd me screenshots, complete with "Jesus Christ, is this about you?" messages. My only reply? A gif of LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow. You don't have to take my word for it. The sign, by the way, was misspelled. True friends are there through thick and thin. That's my life right now, a surreal fever dream of ex-friends, recycled onesies, spelling errors, and the thunderous peace that comes when you finally, truly block someone out. Our real friends are rallying like never before. I finished the nursery, original, by the way, with not a Pinterest board in sight, and my husband's become the king of dad jokes. On the windowsill, I put the misspelled friends sign because, honestly, every time I see it, I remember why we can't, and won't, ever go back. Oh, buckle the hell up, because I seriously thought we'd crossed into the promised land of peaceful, low-drama adulthood, but no, turns out toxic friends have more lives than a cat and better tracking systems than the FBI. The next update is here, and I might need a sitcom deal by the end of this one. Okay. So let's start with the part where I thought we were in the after-montage of our story. We blocked Jess and her husband on everything. Phones, emails, social, even LinkedIn. Why, I don't know, but precaution is precaution. We put the infamous True Friends sign up on a nursery shelf, as a final bit of closure and an inside joke for our kids someday. I was feeling lighter every week, genuinely happy, nesting, meal prepping with my mom, and even going out for a prenatal yoga class once. Jess and her tragic sidekick had faded out. Life was, dare I say it, normal. Then, 3 weeks ago, the phone starts buzzing off the table at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, thinking it's spam. Nope. It's a mutual friend, breathless and panicky, saying, "You need to check Facebook now." Jess is in one of the local parenting groups and, well, just look. What greeted me was a 10-paragraph screed about when community fails, starring, guess who? A local couple, whom I handmade every centerpiece for at their wedding and showered with love, even in my darkest times, recently chose to ghost me in my hour of need. All while trying to cut and paste my life onto their own. No names, but girl, she recapped everything from our home renovations to the baby shower color scheme. Her post was gathering hugs and prayer hands like wildfire, and a few of her loyal MLM-lings were gasping in the comments, "How could anyone do this to you?" Others commented, "Wow, this is so petty, maybe it's time to move on?" The dynamic was messier than a toddler's first birthday cake. At first, I rolled my eyes and did nothing. But the post began to get traction. Suddenly, an old high school acquaintance DMs me, "Hey, random question, did you snag Jess's nursery theme or something? She's really upset, I guess?" It became clear Jess was privately sharing her side and not so subtly hinting at our names. What clinched it for me though, one night, our doorbell rings, and it's my neighbor from 2 doors down. She's holding a hand-addressed envelope, says, "This was left at my house last night, I think it's for you?" Inside? A handwritten letter, in a different friend's handwriting but 100% Jess's dictation, all about how true motherly love is not jealous, but rejoices. Apparent moral, we'd failed some invisible mom test and should be ashamed for rejecting community outreach. I laughed so hard I scared the cat, and then put it in the folder with the other weird Jess memorabilia. But here's where the wheels really came off. Remember the boat? Yes, the infamous "Can you help me store the boat" from her husband. Well, the day before my scheduled C-section, I had to change to C-section after some late-term complications. All resolved now, a tow truck shows up in front of our house. At 7:45 a.m. The driver, totally pleasant, says, "Here to pick up the boat?" Yes. Jess's husband had arranged for his half-broken eyesore of a boat to be delivered to my driveway, just until they sort things out, listing my husband as the point of contact. He'd filled out an online form with my husband's name and our exact address. I wish you could have seen my face, standing in my robe, 8.5 months pregnant, staring at a beached whale of a pontoon in the street, with a poor confused driver and a folder of passive-aggressive notes tucked under my arm. My husband, normally calm, lost it. He called the guy, explained, "Nope, not here, no permission, haul it back or drop it in the river for all I care." The driver, sympathetic, gave us copies of all the paperwork. That was the straw that snapped the camel's already arthritic back. Here's where our story leaves suburban weird and enters full investigative report territory. Husband called the storage place on the paperwork, explained the whole sorry backstory, and wound up chatting with a super nosy, but helpful, front desk lady. Turns out, Jess and spouse had given our address as their forwarding address, not just for the boat, but for a few official things. DH asked, "What things?" Storage lady deadpans, "Oh, there's a couple of certified letters here, and some new business license junk from the state." Yes. They'd registered her newest mom business with our address as the legal business address. So now, deep in the 8th month of pregnancy, I'm fielding state tax letters, catalogs, and even an invitation for Jess to join some new entrepreneur network at my house. This, after telling the world I was the fake friend stealing her glow. I started watching my Ring doorbell like a hawk, expecting her to start filming inspirational reels about forgiveness on my lawn with her misspelled sign. We filed a complaint with the post office, checked with the state business registry, and shot off a firm, lawyer-drafted letter. God bless my cousin and her law degree. Did I want legal drama? No. Did I need mom boss by, ops street name, LLC getting packages at my house forever? Also, no. The registry said they'd flagged the business and forwarded the complaint. Jess, predictably, fired off another message, through a burner Gmail. "Why are you sabotaging my ability to build a support network for mothers who've been abandoned by women like you?" I did not reply, but I did update my email filters. Through this all, my support system stepped all the way up. My mother, newly passionate about banishing the negative for your baby's sake, became an anti-Jess vigilante, warning every cousin to block any new mom business follows. My in-laws actually asked if I had security cameras everywhere. Suspicious Jess would try to personally deliver one of her inspirational wooden signs before the baby arrived. Husband, meanwhile, finally admitted, "I realize now there's just no rescuing people who want to drown you for sport." His therapist, whom he finally saw, told him, "Sometimes the healthiest family is the one you choose for yourself." Our little family, he said, was now his first priority. I'd love to say this is the end, but Jess, much like a malevolent AI, has inspired a small local community, all of whom seem to be rebranding boundaries as trauma. Last week I found out she's running a support circle at the library for moms who've been ghosted. Yes, really. The sign on the door had a direct quote from one of her recent posts. "When you're left out in the cold, build your own damn hearth." I might not be legally allowed to use her real first name as a lullaby curse, but I do wish her and her tiny cabal of MLM wannabes light and love from a medically safe distance. Here's the happy twist to this madness. 3 days ago, my beautiful, squishy, perfect daughter arrived. The first real friends and family to meet her, in shifts, with hand sanitizer at the ready, were the people who showed up, always, and gently, asking how they could help us, not what we could do for them. Real hugs, real freezer meals, real belly laughs. Someone brought us an elaborate hand-painted sign for the baby's room. It said, "Home is where the real people are." Jess's craziness may trickle through the neighborhood, but at our house, it's finally quiet, except for the sweet squalls of a healthy newborn and, every so often, the snort laugh of my husband retelling the boat story. Maybe real friends don't stand above or below. Maybe they just stand by, no hashtags required.